Okay, good. Thank you. So now we come to the second talk by Huitian Yu from ETH. I'm perfect. The floor is yours.
And ladies and gentlemen, today my topic is about discovering hyperelastic material models through sparse regression with an application to human brain tissue. The human brain tissue possesses highly sophisticated structures and function due to the mechanical property. It is ultra-soft and it is also nonlinear. The biomechanical testing is sometimes very challenging. Thus, mechanical modeling is sometimes necessary to understand and predict the behavior of the human brain tissues, even under extreme conditions such as traumatic injury, shaken baby syndrome, and tumor growth. Due to the ultra-soft property of this material, it is possible to apply hyperelastic material model to this brain tissue. And there are a lot of and numerous materials model we can choose from, and they can either be linear or nonlinear. However, it is sometimes very time-consuming and error-prone to select the models from the huge library. So an automatic selection from the huge library is necessary. And sparse regression is one of the most effective and successful way to select the model and filter the most important features from the library. And as we all know that the data sampled from the experiment can contain noises, anomalies, and outliers, we need to suppress the terms with less importance. So now let's first talk about what is a hyperelastic material model. Unlike linear model, the nonlinear strain-stress relationship of hyperelastic material model is somewhat very complicated. However, it also has advantages, like it is also valid under large elastic deformation, even up to 700%. We can also impose incompressibility constraint to this model. And as long as the strain energy density function is available, we can calculate other physical quantities like the stress and the torque. So now let's talk about what is a strain energy density function. It is a scalar value function which describes the stored energy under translatory or rotational displacement. It is a function of the deformation gradient. We can calculate the physical quantity like the stress, which is the derivative of this quantity with respect to the deformation gradient, and also the torque as an integration over the radius, which is not homogeneous. Now, let's come to the candidate model library for the model discovery. There are a lot of models. We can formulate our deformation gradient either at the invariant, which are the coordination irrelevant equivalents of the deformation gradient tensor F, or as principal stretches, which can be obtained by the singular value decomposition of the tensor. So we can split our model into the invariant part and the principal part. The invariant part is linearly dependent on the weighing factors, or we call them the material parameters. There are models like Muni-Rivlin model and logarithm model. And for the principal part, which is nonlinear, we have the most widely applied model, the Ogden model. So the reason why we use sparse regression is that we can reduce our material library to an acceptable dimension, and we can also filter out the most important features by setting as many terms as possible to 0. And in this way, we can suppress the term with less importance, and the model can be as simple as possible and also be effective. And the core idea of this algorithm of sparse regression is to minimize our target function by searching for the minimal point of our material parameters. So we need to reformulate our quantities like the strain energy density function and the stress and the torque in the form of material parameters. And the form of our target function is composed of the sum of the squared difference of the data we computed and the data we sampled from the experiment, plus the last very important regularization term. And this regularization term ensures the sparsity of our model discovery. As we raise the regularization coefficient, the lambda p before it, we can get a more sparse result. And we can also impose the material, the physical constraint to the model so that we have a physical admissible model. And the most important of our model is to validate this model on the specimen. I ran the sparse regression model on a brain tissue specimen, both under the compression tension and under the simple torsion with a very large library, namely a 3-term Mooney-Rivlin model plus a logarithm model plus a nonlinear 3-term octa model. By choosing a reasonable regularization coefficient, a very stunning result comes out. It is nothing to do with the 3-term Mooney-Rivlin and logarithm model. It is a solely nonlinear 1-term octa model with 2 parameters. And this result shows that it is a sparse result, and it is also physically admissible because it is monotonically increasing. And the next step of our project is to expand our model and test on more specimens other than the brain tissue specimen to ensure whether our sparse regression model is applied and whether this model is universal to other materials. Thank you very much.